What's up, survivalists? Jason here. Today I'm going to be talking about splitting a match.
Now there are different type of matches that you can carry on your person. Either waterproof matches, stormproof matches, strike anywhere matches, the good old strike on the box matches, or your booking matches. Now a lot of people say that you shouldn't try to split a match because it could ruin the whole match altogether. And yes, that is true. But that is nothing a little bit of practice can't help with. If you try to split a match, probably like 10 at most each month, you can get a hang of it and end up with a good example right here. I split that really nice down the middle, and both of them are strikeable. And one thing I found out about striking a match is the way that you try to strike it. When you strike a match, some people just do this, just drag it across. I found out putting your finger on top of the head and then scraping it against that will prevent that from breaking. And that's what happens to a lot of matches sometimes, because holding it just like this prevents like a good stationary, and when you try to drag it, it ends up breaking. So holding the head while you're striking it will prevent that from happening. So doing it that way can help a lot. So let's get to the main source of this video. The reason why I wanted to do this video is to show that you can do it, but I need to show you which things really help when trying to split a match. So having a good knife, a good edge, is really helpful when doing this. So let me put you up and let me show you some good knives to do this with. I've been playing with splitting a match for quite a while and trying to see which works and which doesn't. Starting with my Tom Chitwood custom-made knife, I found out that really thick blades don't go well when trying to split a match, because if as you can see, this is pretty much the size of the match. Not necessarily that, but once you get up to around here, it's going to be really hard to try to split up the whole thing. Another thing is, if you have not that much of a point, it's going to be harder to press into the wood without splintering the wood on the match. Right here, I got this CRKT neck knife. This is a Triumph neck, and it has a recurve on it and a Tonto. This kind of works. This can stab into the thing, but I found out the tip, it kind of opens up a little bit more, so it isn't really the best thing to keep hitting with and then lead out into the match. Now with the Mora Companion, it has a Scandinavian grind, and it can work if you're patient with it, but every once in a while you can mess up, and that's when that happened to, where is it? I think it was, yeah, this one. I tried to correct it. Once I go in this way, it split off this piece, but it didn't split off from that point. So that's one thing you have to worry about, is trying to self-adjust with this one. You can do it, just start out at the tip and start to going out that way, but still, you gotta watch out for that. One of the things I recommend is actually getting a flat grind for a knife to actually try to split a match. If you don't have a flat grind, you could try it with other knives if you can, but still, this is probably the best one you could do with a knife. So what you want to do is start from the very back or under the knife. Don't start at the head of the knife, as I've found out when trying to do it that way, you split off the wrong way. So when trying to stab this way, you could get smaller pieces at the top and then a bigger piece at the other side. So that's one thing you have to worry about. So I found out just starting it at the very tip and just like kind of stabbing in and doing that. Move up a little bit, stab, and then just kind of cut it. And this way you won't mess up trying to drag it down. If you get a little bit too close to the side, you could go off, go to the middle and start again. It'll bring it back. And there we go. Sometimes the very top of them may come off since it's kind of a crumbly thing, but you can see right here, I just split a match right there. And I'm going to do it this way. Still lights. And that one still lights. And that is how you will most likely split a match. And that's the best way that I've found to split a match. Start at the very tip of the knife and then go this way. Keep using the very tip of it to stab and then crush down. You can't, once you get toward the middle, it just start chopping it down like that. So you're just going like this across the knife or the match and then going across. You can start at the very tip of this, but I don't really recommend it. So it's kind of like a crunch and then go all the way down and then just hit it with your hand or something like that. Gotta make sure they have a flat surface or a surface to prevent the knife from getting duller, and you can just do it that way and then just cut up. But you gotta make sure that the match head doesn't crumble. But you can also try it with some folding scissors I found here. I tried it a couple times. It doesn't exactly work out, but if it's all you have, because it's not the best thing to have, but it can be done. I've done it once, but not really recommended. And then I think the best thing to actually have for the wooden matches is a razor blade. This has the best control that you can have because it's all right here and you can control it where you hold it. So you just slit down. You actually could see around it and see if you're on point and in the middle. So start at the very tip right there, go down. The thing with the really flat edges is it doesn't bend out the wood that way, so it won't splinter as much. So when you try and do this, that's one thing, is trying to find it again. But you could start right there. Gotta make sure, keep your fingers out of the way and all that stuff, because an injury in the woods or in the wilderness, it's not that good when you're trying to start a fire, because that's one more thing you have to worry about. And one thing about the razor blade, once you get towards the middle, you could just start slicing this way instead of just like kind of like chopping down. There's like two ways, chopping or slicing. I would rather chop and towards the tip right here and then start slicing before you get to the head of the match. And the one thing about using the razor blade to get towards the head of the match is you get a better grip of exactly middle. And I don't know why or how I could stop the very top of them from always coming off, but it's gonna happen. But still, those two right there could still light. Now with paper matches, they're not as hard as the wooden matches are, because the wooden matches actually splinter and the paper matches don't splinter at all. So it's a lot easier to split a paper match. Some people say they can just split it with their fingernails and just split it just with their fingers. Les Stroud said he can. He actually did show how to do it, but I don't really have any fingernails on me right now, so I'll just use a knife. I found out it's still kind of easy to do it with a folding knife rather than a razor blade, because you can't put too much pressure on this one as a wooden one, because the wooden one, it just sinks through. This one needs a little bit more pressure, and this one allows more pressure on the actual blade. So starting from the very top, we could go right there. With the paper matches, you don't always have to start at the very tip right here and then go that way. You can start at the very edge of the head and then go that way. And then that's when you do the splitting of the head. What do you say? So you just chop it until you get to the very edge. And I don't know why, but the heads of the paper matches are easier to actually cut than the wooden matches are. But once you're all the way to the tip, turn it around so it's a lot easier to do, and then get a clean cut right there. So you have two matches out of one. Now, same way with this one. I don't know why, but it's a lot harder to strike it with these. But you could still strike it. It's the one thing is like trying to hold it and strike it in the right way, because if you just do it kind of limp, it's kind of hard. So you actually have to have a stationary point. Use your hand to press against it, and then strike it. But look at that. That's one thing. Sometimes they don't work all the time.
So to conclude this, I gotta say splitting a match could be difficult, but with a little bit of practice, you could definitely get it. But you gotta think about, this is a controlled situation, because I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, I'm not tired, I'm not confused, I'm not crazy. Well, maybe a little bit, but still, any of those factors can hinder splitting the match. So if you don't feel right enough to actually split the match, don't do it. So if you're really tired and shaking and all that stuff, that could possibly prevent you from getting a good split on the match. So just use the match just for itself for how good it is right now, so you don't end up with a bad match. So I hope you learned some stuff from this video and how to split a match, or how I found out how I could split a match, and hopefully you take that advice in. And I want to thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.